The Honourable Rod Caddies.
President, I move that this House calls on the West Australian Labor Government to publicly acknowledge that record high net migration levels experienced in recent years are placing unsustainable pressure on the state's public services, housing supply, transport, community infrastructure and the natural environment. B, calls on the WA Labor Government to admit that the current health infrastructure and resources are insufficient to meet demand, as evidenced by unacceptably long waiting times for emergency, specialist and elective care, resulting in deteriorating health outcomes for too many West Australians. And C, calls on the government to recognise that the severe shortage of stable, affordable and appropriate housing is preventing a generation of young West Australians from achieving home ownership or secure rental accommodation, with the consequence that many are delaying or foregoing starting a family altogether.
Members, the Honourable Rod Caddy has moved that motion. The question is the motion be agreed. The Honourable Rod Caddies.
Thank you, President. Now, as the first part of that motion talks about immigration, I'm going to address the elephant in the room, which a lot of people don't like to speak about. And I mean, the Labor Party knows full well the huge devastating impact that mass migration and rapid population growth is having on Western Australia. They've admitted it time and again through their own words, yet they continue to spur it on. Now, they're not prioritising the interests of West Australians by doing that. This motion isn't about demonising migrants. I want to make that clear. This is about mass migration, mass net migration. It's about priorities. Priorities from a government that's failing to meet the expectations of the people who are in this state already. The WA government admits that mass migration is a problem themselves. I mean, I'll quote here in an ABC report on April 4th, 2025, Labor Treasurer, the Honourable Rita Saffioti, said, "The other point about population growth is it encourages and increases demand for housing and also consumption." She added, so that again helps support other parts of the economy. And even the Federal Housing Minister, the Labor's Federal Housing Minister, also wants young people to find it harder to find a home. I'll quote from her as well. She said this to the ABC on the 28th of November 2024. "We're not trying to bring down house prices." She later clarified, "That may be the view of young people, but it's not the view of our government." And returning to the Honourable Rita Saffioti for a moment, she stated in the 2024-25 budget on May the 9th, and I'll quote her, "West Australia's economy has defied predictions. People are moving to Western Australia like no other time in our history. This year alone, West Australia's population increased by a record 94,000 people, the equivalent of the population of Bunbury and Karratha combined. Managing our extraordinary economy and the population growth that fuels it undoubtedly brings its opportunities and pressures, including additional demand for housing, health and education services." I mean, from statements like these, I can only deduce that Labor is acutely aware of the infrastructure burdens that are caused by massive population growth, yet it seems that they still enthusiastically welcome it. I mean, I understand we need, migrants coming into the country to fill certain positions, jobs and stuff, but why are they so enthusiastic on, and especially the federal counterparts, on having such mass immigration coming in that we can't sustain? I mean, you'd hope it's not to protect property portfolios or real estate interests, or to paper over the deep state. Just get some water here. Yeah, I do actually, thanks. The deep-seated problems in this state, allowing them to, boast about the budget surpluses while West Australians' personal budgets are in the red. So it's fine we have these budget surpluses, but it's not great when people are going without and when the people in the community that they haven't got budget surplus, they haven't got surpluses in their account. I mean, our people are struggling more than any other time in living memory with the highest rent stress in the country, in the nation. And this is directly caused by Labor's policies to ramp up demand on housing through mass migration. But don't take my word for it. I'll quote more Labor MPs who I know that mass migration is not good for everyday West Australians. I've got some here. There was the Honourable Pierre Yang stated on the 21st of August. You can. I don't intercept in your contribution,
Order,
so I'm not taking interjections.
Order.
Thanks.
Really only ought to call order once or even never. The Honourable Rod Caddies has the call.
Thank you, President. Now, as I was saying, the Honourable Pierre Yang stated on the 21st of August in 2025 in this place, and this is quoted from Hansard, "Our state's growing population means that we need to allocate more funding for infrastructure." We've got the Honourable Clara Andrich on the 9th of April 2025 in this Legislative Council, criticising past governments for population growth without support. And I'll quote from the Hansard, "We kept seeing population growth but no infrastructure to support the people moving into those southern corridors." She added, "Good governments think about what transport infrastructure is needed for not only imminent population growth but population growth over the next 10 to 15 years." I mean, apart from Metronet, Labor doesn't seem to have been putting in place the infrastructure needed, yet they still cheer on mass immigration. Even more recently, once again, the Honourable Rita Saffioti, I'll quote the Honourable Rita Saffioti on the 31st of January, has acknowledged the ongoing crisis, saying, "We know housing supply remains a critical issue both in the immediate term and for the future." And again, in the 2025 budget, she called housing costs as a major fact in cost of living. I mean, WA hit 3 million by the end of 2024. That's a 2.4% growth rate, which was the fastest in the nation, far outpacing Queensland and Victoria. But the government seems to even try to hide them figures. I'll quote the Honourable Stephen Dawson, who seemed to imply earlier this year that migrants were coming to Australia were primarily interstate migrants. And I think that was a response to my colleague, the Honourable Phil Scott, during estimates. This is quoted from Hansard. "No, we do not, and to suggest that the population growth is totally subject to people coming from overseas is totally wrong. We have seen, over the past couple of years in particular, a significant shift of people from the east coast of Australia coming to Western Australia. Because the strength of our economy, our mining sector is nation-leading, continues to employ hundreds of thousands of people. And while we had a border during the COVID-19 period to keep sickness out, there is no plan to put a border in again to keep Victorians out, as much as I would love their football teams to stay away from time to time." Now, the data tells a different story. According to Bureau of Statistics, net overseas migration stands at 41,395, dwarfing the interstate migration, which was 11,675. So that's like 75% of that is net overseas migration into WA. That's not, as he put it, trying to keep interstate people out of our state. That's 3/4 of that population that come here were from net overseas migration. So downplaying overseas contributions only serves to obscure the drivers of our infrastructure strain. I mean, the projections have our population at 3.57 million by 2036 if unchecked. That's unsustainable. We've seen even the increase we've had now, the problems we're having. We've seen the freeway, the times you having to wait, all the different highways. Now, Shelter WA's Kath Snell has said, and I'll quote her, "It is mind-boggling that Australia's wealthiest state has the worst affordability for renters, with average renters spending over 30% of income on median rent, plunging them into housing stress." I mean, federal Labor, they claim that they're importing skilled workers, but housing all Australians. Robert Pradlin notes, and I'll quote him, "Businesses across WA are struggling to find staff because there's nowhere affordable for them to live nearby." Now, these supposed skilled workers don't even have a place to live. Even community services can't recruit workers because they can't afford the regional living. Cotality reports nearly half of median income is needed to service a new loan, with the median house value now 8 times the average income, up from 6.6 5 years ago. Senior economist Tom Devitt, so we'll go to an economist here, and I quote him, "Over the last 3 years, WA population has increased by over 250,000 people, but only 56,000 new homes were completed. 250,000 people would probably require an additional 125,000 homes." HIA shows Perth unit prices up 26.2% yearly. Yet I think the Cook government is telling us that 3-bedroom apartments on public land for over $1.5 million is affordable. Even 1 bedrooms at a development in Fremantle costing over $740,000. These aren't affordable. I don't know in anyone's mind how you can think something $1 million is. My point is what I've been stating, that people can deny all they like and target and attack people's character for bringing up a true problem that many people in this state and country say is an issue, and that is population. So, moving on, I've taken the interjection and I'm not saying any more for now, but also we're not approving houses. According to our ABS housing approvals...
Order, member. There was another member on his feet, though he wasn't seeking the call. I just want to check why he was on his feet.
President, I just want to call into place Standing Order 50. I'm having trouble hearing my colleague, even at the back here, from these interjections, and I think we need to have a respectful debate on this matter.
Thank you, honourable member. I will call the House to order if I think it is becoming too unruly. Interjections, though not parliamentary, sometimes occur in the point of contentious debate. Therefore, I will invite, though, the chamber to curtail interjections, particularly when they're talking over one another, to enable the honourable member to hear. The Honourable Rod Caddies.
Thank you, President. Now, the public housing wait list is worse still. For a government that, I recall back when I was working in the past in a office for the Honourable Colin Tinknell, was calling out social housing, talking about how they were going to be so great about, creating more social housing. We've got 20,264 people are currently on the public housing wait list, with an average 3 years spent on that wait list. 3,000 people are waiting half a decade. Let that sink in. 3,000 people waiting half a decade for social housing. Maybe Labor's hoping some of them drop off the wait list through other means. Last year, 102, I believe, died while waiting on that wait list. Now, dwelling prices are tipped to surge a further 16% in Perth, and this is driven partly or considerably by population growth, not by birth rate. Now, I'll quote from the Nightly. "Surging immigration have made houses unaffordable for many Australians over the past 25 years. Trying to accommodate more than 300,000 new migrants every year, a city the size of Canberra, will drive up prices further. Excessively high levels of immigration will inevitably push housing affordability disastrously high, particularly for first home buyers and renters." Now, Here's another one from the Sydney Morning Herald. Housing demand is actually stronger than it would be if, for example, all our population growth come from adding children. But because we're adding adults, it immediately feeds demand. I mean, we could be doing many things. We talk about what we could be doing. We could make it much easier for young people to be having children into the future. At the moment, no. I'm not accepting that interjection on such ridiculous comment. To end my thoughts on housing, I'll leave you with this from Labor government's own budget this year. Our strong population growth has driven significant demand for housing. I mean, these pressures aren't just about housing, they also extend to healthcare as well. Where again, I mean, Labor admits the strain but fails to act. The Minister for Health Infrastructure, the Honourable John Kerry, on the 12th of August, I'll quote what he said: "We face additional pressures in our hospital system because of our extraordinary population growth, with an additional 300,000 people in the last 5 years, which I know is also creating pressure on the housing system." So here it is. You've got the Honourable John Kerry saying this.
Order.
The Premier, the Honourable Roger Cook, said on the 11th of November, "We know that with a growing and ageing population, we need more capacity, more beds and more staff." Well, bringing in more people isn't going to fix that. It's getting bad out there. We've all received the correspondence from constituents. I've been getting so many of them, and also not just the emails I'm getting. It's really the heartbreaking stories. I'm sure every member has been getting them about, waiting for medical care. I've had numerous just in the last week about that. I mean, our ambulance ramping hit record 240 hours in June for our regional areas, and ambulances ramped for 7,074 hours last month. 30% of admissions into the emergency department had waiting times of 8 hours. Now, patients face nearly 3 hours wait beyond recommendations. Widespread non-urgent surgery cancellations amid a resource boom. It just shouldn't be happening. We shouldn't have people waiting for surgeries and medical attention when we have the amount of money we have coming in through the resources in this country. It just shouldn't be happening. People shouldn't have that as a problem. Now again, I'll quote the Honourable Pierre Yang, who said, "Our population has increased," this has come from Hansard, "our population has increased by 300,000. 300,000 new West Australians have come to this state. The pressure on the health system, infrastructure and the education system from the increased population is undeniable." Undeniable, members. This is your own member from the government saying that the population growth, the increase of population is having massive pressure on the health system, the infrastructure and the education system. So that's your own member saying that. I hear it to blame your federal colleagues' neglect, but after 9 years in power, this government have had 9 years to do a lot, but instead they talk about budget surpluses while people out there aren't getting the attention they need in the health system. Now, I'll talk about something else that maybe the Greens could even get on board. Maybe the Greens can get on board. It's the environment.
Order. The Honourable Parwinder Kaur. As I've said before, no one can understand your interjections when you talk over each other, so you need to question whether they have value in the first place. The Honourable Rod Caddies.
Thank you, President. As I was saying, maybe this is something that even the Greens should be able to get behind. The environment. The rapid population surges mean more cars on congested roads, strained public transport and bigger demands on our water and our energy. Experts warn that experts.
Order. 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 The Honourable Rod Caddies.
Now, the Greens have spoken out about the property developments such as the one in Stoneville. You know, there's things like this happening, you know, a big part because we're having to house a lot more people. They argue that it'll have a huge impact on the black cockatoos, yet if population growth was in check, this urban sprawl expansion onto our beautiful environment wouldn't need to happen. Right now, West Australians are being betrayed by a government that hasn't done enough in combating the problems. I mean, it flows onto the amount of people that are living on the street. This push with immigration and not doing enough for the housing problem. I mean, we're about to debate on that assisted buying bill for. It's a good thing. It's going to help people get in, but it's just a band-aid solution to a problem that should have been addressed a long time ago. Over the last 9 years with the budget surpluses we had. Now, yeah, thanks, Honourable Member. I can see that on the screen up there. Now, I think I mentioned experts warn that as Perth surges towards 3.5 million by 2039, more than a decade before previously thought, that's going to be a real problem. We've already seen that massive population growth. We haven't been able to sustain that fast population growth. Now, again, I want to finish off with saying this isn't targeting migrants. It's about the numbers of migrants. It's about making sure our infrastructure and services can cope with the amount of people coming in. I'm happy for people to migrate to Australia, just in the right numbers, the right amount of population. If we're talking federally, my members federally have said 130,000. It will be neutral for a while. That's with people leaving and deaths and stuff. So anyway, I'll leave my contribution there and thank you.